The date was May 23, 2025. A strong message emerged from Ouagadougou. Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo, the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, delivered it. He stated firmly that the United Nations must end its silence. It must act decisively against the sponsorship of terrorism in the Sahel. He pointedly suggested that certain powerful countries might be involved in this sponsorship. Ouedraogo urged the UN to become the voice for nations like his. These nations are fighting fiercely for their sovereignty. Welcome to Adare Africa. Thanks for watching. His words resonated with urgency, reflecting a critical juncture for international diplomacy and regional security. The world, he implied, could no longer afford to look away from the Sahel's deepening crisis. This powerful declaration occurred during an important meeting. The Prime Minister was conferring with Leonardo Santos Simão. Mr. Simão holds the significant position of Special Representative of the UN Secretary-General for West Africa and the Sahel. His visit to Burkina Faso, spanning from May 21st to May 24th, 2025, was crucial. The primary purpose of his mission was to gain a direct understanding of the multifaceted situation unfolding in Burkina Faso. Furthermore, he aimed to explore concrete ways the United Nations could offer support. The discussions held in Ouagadougou were described as frank, detailed, and imbued with a sense of pressing need for action. Prime Minister Ouedraogo was unequivocal in his definition of the enemy. "A terrorist is a terrorist," he emphatically stated. He openly criticized the terminology sometimes used by international organizations. He felt such language could inadvertently legitimize terrorist actions or obscure their true nature. He stressed the sophisticated and ruthless nature of the terrorism plaguing his nation. This included the use of advanced weaponry and complex operational methods. Most disturbingly, Ouedraogo highlighted the abhorrent practice of using child soldiers, a stark indicator of the moral depravity faced by his country. The fight, he conveyed, is against a brutal and unyielding foe. In response, Special Representative Leonardo Santos Simão acknowledged the gravity of the situation. He recognized the complex and constantly evolving nature of terrorism in Burkina Faso and the wider Sahel. He reaffirmed the United Nations' unwavering commitment to continue mobilizing support for the country. Mr. Simão assured Prime Minister Ouedraogo that the information gathered during his visit would be vital. It would inform comprehensive reports to the UN system. Based on these findings, he would personally advocate for increased and more effective international assistance to help Burkina Faso navigate these perilous times. This engagement signaled a potential, albeit initial, step towards greater UN involvement. Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo assumed the role of Prime Minister under extraordinary circumstances. He was appointed on December 7, 2024. The appointment was made by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of the ruling junta in Burkina Faso. This positioned Ouedraogo at the very center of a transitional government tasked with navigating immense challenges. Before this high office, he had already gained significant governmental experience. He served as the Minister of Communication. He was also the official government spokesperson. These roles commenced following the coup d'état in September 2022. His background in managing information and public discourse became even more critical in his new capacity. Delving deeper into Ouedraogo's career reveals a strong foundation in journalism. He is a seasoned professional in this field. He held several prominent positions within Burkina Faso's public television network. These included roles such as editor-in-chief and eventually director. His journey also demonstrates considerable political resilience and astuteness. He successfully navigated the turbulent political landscape, being retained through 3 separate cabinet reshuffles under the current leadership. This consistent presence in government culminated in his appointment as a Minister of State before becoming Prime Minister. This trajectory underscores his recognized capabilities and the trust placed in him during a period of national upheaval. Upon taking office, Prime Minister Ouedraogo quickly outlined his government's core policy priorities. This was formally presented on December 27, 2024. The most pressing and overarching priority is the comprehensive fight against terrorism. This is the central challenge shaping all governmental action. Alongside this critical security focus, his administration is committed to initiating significant development projects. These projects are designed to rebuild infrastructure, stimulate economic activity, and offer a tangible sense of hope to the population. He formed his first government rapidly on December 8, 2024, signaling an intent for immediate and decisive action in the face of daunting national issues. The urgency of these policies is underscored by the stark reality of Burkina Faso's security crisis. The nation is grappling with severe and persistent threats from violent jihadist groups. The human cost of this ongoing conflict is staggering and deeply tragic. Official figures indicate that over 26,000 people have lost their lives since the insurgency took hold in 2015. More alarmingly, a significant portion of these fatalities, numbering over 13,500, occurred after the September 2022 coup. This grim statistic highlights the escalating intensity of the violence. This devastating context inevitably shapes every decision and strategy formulated by Prime Minister Ouedraogo and his government. The conflict in Burkina Faso has precipitated a profound humanitarian emergency. Nearly 2 million people have been forced from their homes, becoming internally displaced persons. This mass displacement has torn apart the very fabric of society. It places an almost unbearable strain on already scarce resources, including food, water, shelter, and healthcare. Countless families have been uprooted, their livelihoods utterly destroyed, and their futures cast into uncertainty. The suffering experienced by ordinary Burkinabe citizens is immense and widespread. This escalating crisis urgently demands a robust international humanitarian response, coupled with sustained long-term support to address the deep-seated needs of the affected population. Beyond direct military engagements, Prime Minister Ouedraogo's government is actively pursuing initiatives to alleviate suffering and build resilience. There are ongoing efforts aimed at improving the general economic conditions within the country. A significant focus is being placed on revitalizing the agricultural sector. Agriculture is not only a primary source of livelihood for many Burkinabe, but also crucial for national food security and overall stability. Furthermore, the government is working to create conditions that would allow displaced populations to return to their homes safely and voluntarily. Rebuilding these shattered communities is recognized as a monumental, yet absolutely essential task for achieving lasting peace. The political environment in Burkina Faso remains exceptionally turbulent. The nation has witnessed 2 military coups in rapid succession since the beginning of 2022. The first coup, which occurred in January 2022, was led by Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. His time in power was short-lived, as he was subsequently overthrown by Captain Ibrahim Traoré in another coup in September 2022. This persistent political instability creates significant challenges for effective governance. It also complicates the sustained and coordinated efforts required to combat the deeply entrenched terrorist groups operating within the country's borders. Achieving political stability is a critical prerequisite for making meaningful progress on all fronts. In parallel with these internal challenges, Burkina Faso is also navigating a period of shifting regional partnerships and geopolitical dynamics. The country, along with its neighbors Mali and Niger, has taken steps to distance itself from France, its former colonial power. These 3 Sahelian nations have come together to form the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. This new alliance signals a potentially significant recalibration of regional power structures and foreign policy orientations. The year 2025 is widely viewed by observers as a potential turning point for West Africa. The region is bracing for substantial political and economic transformations, as new alliances are forged and old ones are reevaluated. Prime Minister Ouedraogo's message to the United Nations placed an unwavering emphasis on the principle of national sovereignty. For Burkina Faso, the arduous battle against terrorism is inextricably linked to the fundamental fight to preserve its national independence and territorial integrity. The grave allegation that powerful external nations might be involved in sponsoring terrorism directly undermines this cherished sovereignty. This accusation, if substantiated, raises profoundly serious questions about the conduct of international relations and the responsibilities of global powers. The United Nations, as a body founded on the sovereign equality of its members, therefore has a clear and compelling duty to protect the integrity of nations like Burkina Faso. The nature of the terrorist threat, as described by Ouedraogo, is particularly alarming. He specifically highlighted the increasingly sophisticated tactics and advanced methods employed by these extremist groups. The deeply disturbing recruitment and systematic use of child soldiers in the conflict represents a grave concern, transcending tactical considerations to become a profound moral and ethical crisis. The exploitation of children in warfare indicates the desperation and ruthlessness of these organizations. It also suggests that these groups may have access to considerable resources, training, and extensive operational networks, making the task of confronting them exceptionally difficult and complex for national security forces. The crisis in Burkina Faso has far-reaching consequences that extend beyond its borders, impacting the entire Sahel region. The nation's struggle against violent extremism is not an isolated incident confined to one country. Instead, the stability of the whole Sahelian belt hangs precariously in the balance. If terrorism is not decisively and effectively countered in Burkina Faso, there is a significant risk that it will further destabilize the region. Extremist ideologies and violence could easily spread to neighboring countries, potentially igniting a wider, more unmanageable crisis. This interconnectedness makes the situation in Burkina Faso an urgent international security imperative, demanding collective attention and action. In conclusion, Prime Minister Ouedraogo's impassioned plea serves as a crucial call for shared global responsibility. The United Nations, along with the broader international community, must step up and act decisively. The world can no longer afford to remain passive observers or offer inadequate responses to the escalating crisis engulfing the Sahel. Supporting Burkina Faso and its neighboring states in their fight against terrorism is not merely an act of charity or goodwill. It is fundamentally about upholding the principles of international law. It is about protecting innocent human lives from violence and despair. Ultimately, it is about ensuring lasting regional stability and, by extension, contributing to global security for all.